The arthropods, and more specifically the insects, are the most diverse group of species on the planet. No other clade even comes close to the raw morphological and ecological diversity represented by the insects. This holds true even when you zoom in to look at individual branches within the insect class. Flies, for example, have almost unparalleled genetic diversity between all of their various species. The beetles are extremely diverse as well, particularly with respect to their size, coloration, and morphology. Just a cursory glance across the insect clade will reveal to you mind-boggling variety in terms of body shape, color, behavior, habitat, lifestyle, and ecological integration. Now this brings me to a particular group of insects who have made headlines recently thanks to a new study that analyzed their genetics and their evolutionary history. These are the stick and the leaf bugs of the order Phasmatodea, which are found worldwide, no doubt because of their remarkable camouflage strategy. Now both of these insect types, both the stick bugs and the leaf bugs, they live in vegetation, in and among the grasses, bushes, shrubs, and trees. Within this vegetable habitat, these insects have undergone extreme morphological adaptation in response to the threat of predators. In order to camouflage themselves, they've evolved body shapes that are remarkably similar to the branches, twigs, leaves, and even the bark that defines their habitat. The stick bugs look quite literally like little sticks or thin branches. When they're climbing in the tree canopy, if they see a predator, they'll freeze, staying as still as possible. And in this position, they appear like any other random branch or twig, and the effect is so convincing that a predator who moves by within striking distance may not even realize that the bug is there. Other body shapes take the form of leaves, perfectly mimicking the shape and coloration of the leaves on the plant in which they live. Now within this subgroup of leaf bugs, there's wild diversity, as various species of leaf bug live on different types of plants, and so they've adapted to mimic different types of leaves. There are even more bugs that crawl along the trunk of trees, living on and below the canopy, but above the ground. These bugs have taken on the form of bark, perfectly mimicking the color and texture of the plants on which they live. Now, a new study has done a deep analysis of the Phasmatodea genome to reveal the mysteries of their emergence and their wild diversification. Here's an opening passage from the abstract of their paper. The researchers say, quote, "Phasmatodea comprises over 3,000 extant species and stands out as one of the last remaining insect orders for which a robust higher-level phylogenetic hypothesis is lacking. New research suggests that the extant diversity is the result of a surprisingly recent and rapid radiation that has been difficult to resolve with standard Sanger sequence data. In order to resolve the early branching events of stick and leaf insects, we analyzed transcriptomes from 61 species, including 38 Phasmatodea species comprising all major clades, and 23 outgroup taxa, including all other Polyneoptera orders." Unquote. With some modern statistical and genomic analysis, the researchers were able to piece together the natural history of the Phasmatodea order. It turns out that the species aren't necessarily related to each other based on morphological similarity, and that might seem kind of counterintuitive. Rather, they're more closely related based on geographic proximity. So in other words, two similar-looking leaf bugs that live in habitats far apart from each other, for example, might not be that closely related. But a leaf bug and a stick bug that live in nearby habitats are more likely to be closely related. This would suggest that the insects have a very high phenotypic plasticity, that their morphology can evolve rapidly depending on the habitat they're in, and the predators and thus the selective pressures that they're exposed to. So in this regard, the researchers have identified two major lineages, one that's sprawled outward from Southeast Asia and another that has dominated the Americas. Dr. Sarah Bank of the University of Göttingen and the co-author of the study said, quote, The flamboyant stick insects of Madagascar, for instance, descended from a single ancestral species who colonized the island approximately 45 million years ago." Unquote. Perhaps the most interesting finding is that the biggest radiation and diversification of extant Phasmatodea began around 66 million years ago, which is right about the time when an asteroid impact hit the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, wiping out the dinosaurs. The only dinosaur lineages that survived would become the crocodilians and the birds. And it was the birds who adapted to live in the tree canopy, to fly around with their feathery forelimbs. Now, another interesting thing to note is that flowering plants also emerged around this time, diversifying throughout the Cenozoic. This combination of the bird predators to apply the selective pressure and the emergence of the flowering plants to create a new kind of habitat for these insects, it created a whole new evolutionary environment for the Phasmatodea. They now had new food sources, new habitats, new symbiotic relationships with the plants, and new predators who shared the canopy with them. This complex influence of factors encouraged the evolution of the stick and leaf bug lifestyle, their ecology and behavior, and, most iconically, their remarkable camouflage. This kind of stuff is so cool. I mean, I just love studies like this. The same event that wiped out a huge chunk of Earth's biodiversity simultaneously created the conditions for the surviving species to radiate and diversify, recreating that biodiversity in their own right. This is a perfect example of the perpetual tide of carbon, always reproducing, always changing, always adapting, always evolving to survive in this swirling ocean of natural forces.